Good. So what are some other musical truisms?
When we find piano subito, maybe we need to rest something for the piano subito. We are forte and we can go to piano subito like strong thing.
So, Sergio, help me out here, make sure I'm stating this correctly. To do a forte piano requires separation. So before I do the forte piano, I've got to have just a little lift pause to be able to draw that out. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay.
Subito piano?
Subito piano.
Yeah. Okay.
So to get suddenly soft.
You have the passage like forte, no?
Yes.
And when you see that mark, you need to like breathe a little bit or like compose something, no?
Sure. So to do a subito piano requires and I'll just lift it as a lift pause, a breath mark before you play it, right? Because that separation allows what? It allows the resonance of the forte to carry on, and then the subtlety of the piano to just kind of float. Yeah, great. So, and that's a great truism, a specific truism for a special dynamic. If you want to artfully play subito pianos, get off the note before it, just as a lift pause. You don't want to overdo it. Just a ba, right? And it's there, and you don't even realize it until the resonance dies away from the forte. Yeah, good. What else? There's some other musical truisms.
Come back to crescendos and diminuendos. You should start a crescendo quieter. You should start a diminuendo louder to maximize the effect.
Yeah.
So sure, start softer. And you said the opposite?
Yeah.
Diminuendo. Start louder?
Yep.
Or you can also say make sure that you maintain your peak before you do a diminuendo. We see that all the time with young players, you know, they see a dynamic change coming from loud to soft, like a subito or even a diminuendo, and they start getting soft much sooner than they should, you know. So that, yeah, that comes from, I call that red belt playing. It's like being in karate. You're a red belt. You have all the knowledge to kill someone and no self-control. You know, what does the black belt mean? It means I have self-control, that I won't do that to you. You know, so awesome. So crescendos and diminuendos. What else? What are some other musical truisms?
About leading into an accent with a slight crescendo, so it lands on that accent.
Okay. Can I just say lead to accents?
Yeah.
Could we also say lean?
Yeah.
You know, there's always that little crunch when you lean, right? So a little crescendo to the accent, a little blossoming of the accent. Okay, what else?
In terms of tempo, when if you're changing from slow to a faster to a slow, there's going to be a tempo change. There's going to be some anticipation of it, I think.
Okay,
That's a
how do we do that? How do we state that? We can't say that changes of tempo are never shocking, can we?
no. It's
We
not-
can't say that. Tempo, I'm just going to write that word there. What are the musical truisms that we know about tempo?
In terms of there's going.
I kind of know what you're working at, Theo, but I want to see.
Have a tempo in mind before you start.
Okay.
You can kind of convey it to the ensemble a couple beats early as a conductor.
Well, through your preparatory gestures, yes. But is that a musical truism or is that a technique of establishing tempo?
Yeah.
You know,
Thinking,
what I know,
thinking in the subdivision, maybe, before.
also a technique, right, to think in terms of the subdivision of it. What we know about tempo is And again, Charles, we can talk about the jazz aspect of this because this is what breaks the rule. But all music has a natural tempo. I find it really funny to look at tempo markings by composers because to me they're no-brainers. It's like, well, of course. Once you sing the melody, if it doesn't fit slow and it doesn't fit too fast, you'll find it. They will find their own tempo. And so I think of like a tune like Autumn Leaves. Dum-dee-doo-dee, which also works beautifully as ba-da-doo-dee, ba-da-doo-dee. So some songs work at a variety of tempos. But for the most part, most music has its own life tempo. It has a natural tempo to it. What are some other musical things? Musical truisms about tempo. So one would be that tempo is natural. It should fit.
Also, I suppose going from that natural fit, it depends on the style. Going back to your Philip Spark thing, you know, you wouldn't do a jig.
Sure.
192.
Yeah, so natural, stylistic. Tempo is natural and stylistic, right. Yeah, if I saw somebody that put a jig down and said, 216, I'd be going, you dancing with fairies? What are we doing? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me to do that. What else can we say about tempo, though? Here's one for you that goes, go ahead.
It's flexible.
Sure, tempo breathes. Tempo breathes. It ebbs and flows. And so there's almost always some squishiness of tempo in a line, and that we can apply it to high points of line. That's where we start to get into rubato. But even before we get into rubato and retardando or accelerando, I think tempos have some push and pull, to them that they can do. It's very much like breathing. The one that I'm thinking of is that slow looks for fast, and fast looks for slow. Okay, so in terms of tempo, if I start out fast, and here's my glasses that say fast looks for slow. I'd like to say that that's shorthand, but it probably takes me longer to write the glasses than it does the other. And slow looks for fast. Think about form and formal design. Don't we often find section changes, big sections of music change in terms of tempo? Maybe even rhythm. I'd say that about rhythm. Rhythm looks for what?
Stability.
Duple looks for triple. Perhaps. I think that maybe some other ways of stating this. Fast rhythm looks for slower rhythm. Shump da 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 da. Okay, now all the jump da 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 da, all those notes, what do they create in music? Tension. And what does da look for? Release. So all music, here's a truism, boils down to the creation of tension and the release of tension. Right? Anybody know anything about Schenkerian analysis? Okay, in its most simplest terms, what does Schenkerian analysis do?
Breaks it down to Mary Had a Lamb, da-da-da.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it breaks it down to here's your 5 chord, and then you end on 1. Done. It looks at a piece of music and says, here's your biggest 5. This is the biggest 5 moment of the piece, and of course you're going to 1. Well, thank you, Captain Obvious, in functional harmony, right? That gets a little bit frightening when it comes down to that. But how do we create tension then? What elements in music create tension?
Rhythm can do it. Dynamics can do it.
Harmony can do it.
Right, so soft looks for loud, loud looks for soft. Fast looks for slow, not only in terms of tempo, but rhythm as well, right? Fast looks for slow and slow looks for fast. Short looks for long. Could be note length or it could be articulation. So short looks for long, long looks for short.
Dissonance, notes for
Consonance? Absolutely. We're all looking for those moments that resolve from what? From something tense. And we used to look at tension as this really negative thing. Well, now it's what energizes music. So when you're looking to do analysis of a piece and make decisions about, do I crescendo? How much do I crescendo? Do I put an accent on this? What do we look for? We look for longer notes looking for shorter notes, and vice versa. We look for higher notes looking for lower notes. We look for the peak point and say, well, that's what I'm drawing to. And ultimately then, if that's my tension point, I got to come down from there. Now, it's not always going to be a gentle slope, is it? Down to that area of repose. Sometimes it can be very jagged as you work your way down. But you take a piece like Yellow After the Rain that you're looking at, and you say, okay, so how should I